What up, Doe One Pride? My name is Antony Fitzpatrick. I am the Brit with grit, and this is Lions Nation Unite, the community forged by Detroit Lions legend Herman Moore, bringing together a whole host of Detroit Lions content creators and you, the fans, into one forum to talk everything Detroit Lions. If you could do me a favor and you could like and share this video, and if you like the content that you're seeing, consider subscribing to the channel as well. We're working really hard to try and get this thing up and off the ground, and we can only do that with the support from you, the fans. So, why am I here today? We are talking Jacksonville Jaguars at Detroit Lions. We're going to take a look at a few of the keys to victory, a few of the notes and observations I've made about this matchup. Where are we good? Where can we be hurt? All those sort of things. So we're going to dive right down into this one. It is the Lions, one of the first games at home in some time. We've got the 2-8 Jacksonville Jaguars come into the 8-1 Lions at Ford Field. The Lions favored by 14 for this one, but I just want to start this video by saying let's take these betting lines, let's take PFF grades, let's take DVOA, all this stuff, let's chuck it out the window, and let's take a look at maybe just how much this Jacksonville Jaguars team can give us issues this weekend. And I just want to start by saying this 2-8 record, let's take this with a little pinch of salt for this team. 8 of these losses for Jacksonville have come by less than one score. This is not a team that is getting blown in, week out, and is looking for the number one pick in the draft. The last week against the Minnesota Vikings, their defense spent 43 minutes on the field and didn't give up a single touchdown. They limited them to just 4 field goals. This is a team that is scrapping. This is a team that is fighting. This is a team that is far from done. And we don't look at that 2-win column and just assume this is going to be an easy win. This is a team that needs our respect. So let's just take a little look down into this matchup, and we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball for the Lions and the defensive side of the ball for the Jags. And the first matchup I've got here is going to seem like a very weird one, and you will have to give me a bit of time to explain myself. But I've really sort of narrowed this one down to the interior of our offensive line and our quarterback against their linebackers. Now, give me a minute to explain this one. So there's a correlation with this Jags team this year, how they're playing on defense and how you beat them. You look at the teams who've not been able to score points against them and what's one of the defining features about them. So here, the Miami Dolphins only scored 20 on this team. 81 rushing yards on 25 carries at 3.2 yards per carry. The Browns only scored 18 points on this team. 125 rushing yards, but on 29 carries, it's 4.3 yards per carry. The Patriots, 16 points scored against the Jags, 38 yards on 15 carries, a meager 2.5 yards per carry. And then the Vikings this weekend, 12 points scored against this team. Now, they got 169 rushing yards on them, but it was on 43 carries. That was just a solitary 3.9 yards per carry. And with 43 minutes of possession and running the ball down their throat, they were still not able to break this Jags defense open. Now we switch it onto the other side and look at the teams who have scored quite a few points against them. We look at the Packers. They scored 30 on them. Josh Jacobs, 127 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns at 5.1 yards per carry. Philly got 28. Saquon Barkley had 159 yards and 1 touchdown at just under 6 yards per carry. And Chicago dropped 35 on them. Now, DeAndre Swift had 91 yards and a touchdown. He was running at 5.5 yards per carry. Now, there is a correlation here. If you are able to run the ball well, get over 5 yards per carry against this Jaguars defense, then you are able to nullify their pass rush. You're able to protect your quarterback better, and you're able to take the mistakes out of the game, which the teams who didn't score much against them were not able to do. And you may be wondering, well, why is this about the linebackers for us? Now, their interior offensive line, you look at its BFF grades, you look at that, nothing particularly jumps out about them there. It's these guys behind them in the second row of this defense, which makes the run defense dangerous when it's on its day. So in here, you've got Ventrell Miller, you've got Devin Lloyd, you've got Oluokun in there, you've got Chad Muma in there. These are guys who can keep going and going and going and tackle and tackle and tackle. In the Minnesota game, Devin Lloyd had 17 tackles. Oluokun had 11 tackles. They had 13 run stops between the pair of them, and they had an interception as well on the day. And what's this showing is even if you're able to sort of dig out gaps in the initial defensive line to get your running backs going in these games, these linebackers, they plug and play. They come up, they gap fill, they stop you running the football. And as you've seen in the last game, they play for 43 minutes. These engines don't die. They will keep coming again and again and again. And no matter how much you try to break the door down, it's impossible to get down for some of these teams. So this is where our interior offensive line comes into it. And the offensive line, maybe at whole in general. You've got to get your double blocks on the defensive line done quickly, efficiently, and then you have to get up to the second line of the defense. You have to start taking these linebackers out of the game so that you can get those extra yard, 2, 3 yards per carry, which makes such a difference in games against this team. If they're able to stop your run game just enough, then the pressure coming off the edge makes it really difficult for teams to be able to score against them. They've got playmakers in the secondary who can pick the ball off. So this for me is a very critical battle. Our line has got to be very technically proficient in this. They've got to be quick. They've got to execute well, and they've got to get up on the linebackers and make plays on there. And in the event that you cannot do this, if you are struggling to run the ball, if you're struggling to deal with this front seven as one group unit and run on them, this is where the quarterback comes into play. You can't just stubbornly keep with the run against these guys, because as I've said, they will just keep repelling you away. They have the ability to do that. So you want your quarterback to start targeting these linebackers in coverage, because that is an entirely different story when it comes to how well these guys play. You look on the year, Chad Muma has given up 13 receptions on 13 targets. Devin Lloyd has given up 24 receptions on 28 targets. Foyesade Oluokun has given up 15 receptions on 17 targets. Ventrell Miller is the only one who's kind of had some success. He's given up 22 receptions on 28 targets. This is not the best bunch when it comes to coverage. So, if you can't run through them, what do? You start targeting them in the rushing game, in the pass game. Sorry, you start maneuvering these guys out of position. You start taking them away from the line of scrimmage. You start getting your playmakers involved in this game, and you take the linebackers out of the equation so that you can, as Detroit like to, go back to the run game and then go back to your bread and butter. So if the line can't do it, the quarterback is going to have to do it here. And there's a particular weakness that this defense has when it comes to this. So I want to go through the last 5 games that they've played, and specifically the receivers against them. So against the Chicago Bears, their leading receiver, Cole Kmet, 5 targets, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the leading receiver on the day. Against the Patriots, Hunter Henry, 8 catches, 92 yards, leading receiver. Against the Packers, Tucker Kraft, 3 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown, the leading receiver. Against Philly, Grant Calcaterra, he had 5 catches for 30 yards. He had the most targets of any receiver on the day, though not the most yards. And then most recently against the Vikings, TJ Hawkinson, 8 catches, 72 yards, most on the team. Now everybody say it with me. What are these guys? They're all tight ends. The Jaguars have been struggling badly to deal with tight ends recently, and it's a shame that Sam Laporta is injured for us at the minute, but we've got Brock Wright, we've got Shane Zylstra, and we've got James Mitchell on the practice squad. If you're going to say there's some secret sauce for this game that we can take advantage with, maybe expect an unexpected breakout game from one of these guys. If they have a weakness against tight ends, and if you're going to split this Jags defense open, if they are going to try and be rough and tough on you on the day, that's the way you go. You go with your tight ends, you get that going, you get the linebackers out, you start running the ball again. But this is a really critical matchup for us. We need to take those linebackers out the equation. And then we talked about the interior of the offensive line. The the tackles on the offensive line. This is a big game for them. They're coming up against Josh Hines Allen. They're coming up against Trayvon Walker. You're coming up against Eric Armstead. The first two have 13 sacks on the season, and this team had 22 pressures against Minnesota. They were able to stop Minnesota running the ball effectively. And what happened? Their edge rushers were able to tee off, and Sam Darnold threw three interceptions on the day. Now, run game not quite working, quarterback put under pressure, quarterback throwing a lot of picks. Does that sound familiar? This is exactly what happened to us against the Houston Texans. We cannot afford to have another situation where we're throwing three, four, five picks again. So this is a huge matchup for us. Our tackles, Taylor Decker is just coming back from injury. Panay is great. We love him. He had that one play where he got burned the other day, but the tackles have to stand up against the pressure in this one because if we're not able to run the ball as well and we do have to pass it a bit more, you have got to stand up to that pressure. Otherwise, if we let Goff get pressured, they will be able to get takeaways, and that's going to be the best chance of winning this game if they can turn us over and give their offense as much, momentum as possible. So the interior's got its job, and the tackles have got its job. Those are two matchups I'm going to be watching very closely in this one, and if we're able to win both those battles, we will have no problem with this Jaguars team, but we have to look at ways that they possibly could hurt us, and they could hurt us this way if they win these two particular battles. So I'm going to be watching that very closely. The offensive line is going to be huge for us in this one if it is going to be a close run affair. Now we've got to switch it over to the other side of the ball, and what's our defense got to do in this one to ensure that, we don't suffer any unwanted nerves in this one. One, you've got to stop them running the football. You look at their position at the minute. Mac Jones is going to be playing his second game at quarterback for them. He looked nervous in his first game. He threw a couple of bad throws, couple of interceptions in there, but he's rusty. He's not played a lot of football in a while, and he's still adapting to this scheme. So for me, one, you've got to take his run game away. They've got Tank Bigsby on this team who is having a tremendous season, who is able. He's one of these guys, he doesn't need the offensive line to block well for him. He can get yards on his own. He can move the chains. So you've got to bottle him up. You've got to bottle Etienne up as well. You've got to stop them from taking the pressure off Mac Jones. Because if we allow Mac Jones to settle into this game and get a little bit of confidence, he's got targets in this game to be able to cause us problems. Brian Thomas, guys like that, Devin Duvernay, they've got weapons. They've got, multifaceted weapons, as we call them as well. So you've got to stop the run game, and then you've got to make his life uncomfortable. He is, as I say, just coming into this team. He looks nervous. He looks like he's got mistakes on him. So it's our edge rushers that really have to make the impact in this game. Zadarius Smith is coming into the team. Hopefully, he's going to make a big impact first week. We've seen James Houston getting better as time goes on. Pascal's now over his injury. The Jacksonville Jaguars their offensive line only gave up four pressures against the Vikings. You look on that line, and apart from Scherf, you don't see any stars, but they are more than capable in pass protection of giving Mac Jones a pocket to work from. So your edges, I think you have to go aggressive against him early here. I would send a little bit of extra pressure, some late blitzers. I would try and make him feel uncomfortable. If you can rattle him early, you're probably going to get a lot of mistakes out of Mac Jones. And with the way our secondary's playing at the minute, I wouldn't put it past us getting quite a few turnovers if he's just throwing errant balls in the air. He's panicked, he's rushed, we get the ball out his hands. So the edge rushers are going to play a big part in this for us. We've got to start consistently getting home. I know we got four sacks in the last one, but we just want to see a bit more consistency, a bit more with the pressure. You want to see these quarterbacks scrambling all the time, not just a little bit of the time. I've no doubt that the interior of our line will be able to keep this run game in check. So, for me, it's this edge room. You've got to stop Mac Jones getting comfortable. So that is the main one on defense. And then outside of this, you've just got to play good, sound, technical football all around. We are the better team than them, not just on paper, but talent-wise. We are vastly favored for a reason. But this is a team that can bite you if you don't give it the respect that it deserves. And as you've seen, if we lose some of these key battles, they do have the weapons to hurt us, and they do have the ability to make this a very close game. So like I say, the three key matchups here for me, the interior of our offensive line, getting into their linebacker room to allow our run game to flourish. The tackles have got to stand up against these three really good edge rushers that they've got. And then our edge rushers on our side have got to get this, I was calling him a rookie quarterback anymore, this new quarterback to the system rattled so that he makes mistakes. We can't make his life easy. Or there's still a good quarterback in there. And all he needs is a few passes and just a little bit of confidence. Start slinging some darts, and we could be in for a little bit of a tougher day than we are expecting. So those are my three areas I'm really looking at in this game. I want to know what you guys think about this. For me, I like to look at I like every team can win on a given day. So I like to look at theoretics about how a team could potentially beat us. Do you think that these are really as bigger issues as you are? Are there any other matchups up there that you're looking at in particular where you think, maybe it could cause us a little bit of bother if we don't win these? We want to hear from you. I will be down in the comments below replying to all your posts as well. I love chatting with all you guys. So let me know. What are you thinking? Jags at Lions. What are your thoughts going on to this weekend? For the record, I do think we're going to win. I think I had us winning by about 30-13, but I think they're going to play us closer than the scoreline suggests. I think it's going to take a little while for us to get going, and eventually we will put a cushion between us. But I'm certainly not looking at the stats with this team. They are not as bad as that 2-8 record suggests, and I'm expecting a hard fight this weekend. But we will see. As I say, please, if you enjoy what you've seen, like and share the video, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it here at Lions Nation Unite. If you want to see a bit more about me, you can find me at Roar of the Lions UK. We're a group of Detroit Lions fans from across the pond who love to discuss ball and love to discuss Lions, and we would love to chat with you all as well. I am the Brit with Grit. This is Lions Nation Unite, and we shall see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.